Hi, this is Austin from New Future Kids, and
Yes.
we're
Hello.
gonna do an interview today about Bobo Bay. Can you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the game?
Yeah, so I'm Austin, New Future Kids, and started this game about 3 years ago, I think, at this point. Took a long break in there for a little bit for various life reasons, but I've been pretty consistent since for 2 years, and then I'll be that consistent until release next year. But yeah, Bobo Bay is a pet sim racing game. So if you don't know Chow Garden, that's how I would explain it. If you know what Chow Garden is, I would say it's Chow Garden. Chow Garden from Sonic Adventure was basically just like a side mini game for the main platforming levels. And here I took it as basically just turned it into its own thing. So like this is the main event. It involves collecting and raising these little creatures called Bobos, and you'll train them, get them have better stats, and then you'll put them into competitions like races and brawls, which is like a fight mode. And after they come back, you can buy them accessories, buy them more food to help them grow, and the loop continues. So it's a pet sim game that has just an element of like racing because you watch them race. It's like a management type thing. Um, yeah, and I just took that base formula and try to expand it in various ways. If you want me to go into those, I can. But yeah, a lot of things I tried to add to make it its own thing.
Yeah, like the original Chow Garden was fun, but also incredibly janky and at times just unfair. The Bobo Bay playtest and demo that I played featured a lot of different aspects. How exactly did it come to be that you took this idea and then evolved it into what it is now, and what did you add more to it to make it its own thing?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I was fascinated with the idea. I actually had an original idea like years ago that was similar to this. I liked this idea of training something and then watching it compete and not really interacting that much. You do a little bit, but not much. And when I wanted to officially start this, I came up with a lot of ideas just natural. I mean, it's an from an older game and it's a mini game, so various things come with that. Like one, it's there's not much time put into it development wise, and yeah, like right, balancing and it's maybe a little grindy. And with this, I knew I had time to test and really make sure. And I'm still doing it. Like we have Patreon builds, so Patreon testers get to test constantly, and I'm constantly just tweaking little like values and stuff just to make sure it needs to be a little bit grindy because that's the part of the fun of it. But I hate grinding, so it's definitely not as grindy as Chow Garden. Um, and yeah, it kind of just building upon what would make that fun. And if I'm not doing Sonic platforming, how would I make this its own thing? So a big thing I added like a calendar system, like Stardew Valley. So game runs through 4 seasons, and you have nighttime and daytime. And so you can have nighttime Bobos and daytime Bobos, and there's different events that happen. All the events happen on a schedule. So instead of just having all of them at once, you'll actually have like 4 competitions that day. And the next time those competitions come up might be like a week from then. So you only have one chance to do it until you have to do it again in a week if you want to. So that was probably one of the first things I thought of was the calendar system. I thought that would make it fun and unique, and it was definitely a lot more involved before. It was just too much strategy involved, and I dumbed it down a little bit because I felt like just to cater towards more of a casual audience. It was like you had to sign up for the events and then plan for them, and that would just never go over well. So in this case, I have the trials, which are daily scheduled, and then sagas is like the main objective.
It is
That
like
is more
these
like
many different races, like where you have to fly with a more of a flight focus or a swim focus, just like in the original Chow Garden. But there was also like breaking walls, which is more strength based, or a genuine like fighting mini game as well, where you just have the little kids beat each other up. I mean, the little Bobos beat each other up, which I found hilarious. How did that came to be?
Yeah, so karate mode was it's probably the biggest thing I was asked when I started posting about this game online and TikTok. I was constantly asked about the karate mode because I was in Chow Garden. However, I wasn't a huge fan of that mode in Chow Garden. I just thought it was not as interesting as the races, but I think it had potential. So that's the biggest one. I think I just totally went wild with that one and turned it into like a full fighting game, like looked at Tekken and stuff. So it's very intense. It's not karate. It's just like they're fighting and brawling. Um, and yeah, just from the get go, I wanted to make it feel like anime. Like there's hit frames and uh, like screen shake, and you can juggle. Like bows will juggle each other, which I thought was funny. Um, yeah, there's a lot of like really fun things I planned for a while. Then when I finally committed and started making it last year, I think it turned out pretty well. There's still some things to tweak, but it's definitely the most unique thing for my game compared to Chow Garden, since the karate mode was pretty tame compared to what I have in my game.
Yeah, I really like that. There's a lot of aspects in Bobo Bay that make it its own thing, and while you can definitely see where the inspiration comes from, and there are a lot of elements that you've taken over, there's also like the phone UI, like the menu is just a phone that you whip out, and some other cute ideas like the accessories you can add. There's the phantom species, I believe, as well.
Yeah, so yeah, the phone was kind of like it really came out of in the beginning. I really wanted to make the game feel as like physical as possible. I guess you call it like I think it's like diegetic UI, I think is maybe what people call it. Um, not
Just
really how it is in my game, but I I didn't want there to be this big inventory system. I loved the idea of like you just have a ton of stuff thrown upon like around your garden. I thought was funny, and then like signing your Bobo up for a competition. I didn't want to go through like a menu. I like the idea of like you place your Bobo down. There's still a menu to pick it, but like placing physically things, placing your items on these benches that save them. But there's a lot of stuff in the game that I needed to have some sort of UI for. So the cell phone came out of that, of a way. Firstly, the biggest thing was just I wanted this contact list in your phone. You have like a contact list of all your Bobos, and then you can
mhm.
call them to you. Um, so if you're in a different map or different level, you can call them to you instantly instead of having to go back and get them. Um, and then yeah, just everything else kind of came with that. Like I added that, and then I love this idea of obviously I should put a camera on the phone, and then you can
Yeah,
assign their photos as contact photos, which I think is like probably my favorite feature I've added in the game. Um,
not gonna lie, that's my
and yeah,
favorite
like
as well. Just whipping out the phone and taking little pictures as if you had like little cats or whatever. And
exactly, yeah.
when I was cat sitting, I would always would snap so many pictures of them, and it gave me that same vibe in Boba Bay as well. It's just very silly, especially because it doesn't work like a photo mode where you can like have so much control over it or anything like that. Instead, you literally take pictures with this phone that your character has in its hand, and it's kind of scuffed often, but also incredibly adorable.
It's not a full photo mode. It's just kind of like the full purpose is just to kind of assign these cute profile pictures for the contact list, and I
Yeah,
think it works really well for that. And
it does
yeah,
a
I mean,
lot.
other stuff with like Zabobopedia. So there's like going to be like tutorial sections in there. Then you can track all the colors you've collected, all of the traits that you've collected. There's a ton with the phone that I'm definitely glad I added it because I think it just allows me to do more that I wasn't planned before.
How did like the name came to be? Like Bobo Bay and the creatures are called Bobos. I keep thinking about babies and babies fighting and racing and stuff, but that can't be it, right?
So originally, New Future Kids is basically a partnership between me and my friend Alex. We make separate games, but the idea was we can make separate games and then release them under the same dev team title. So he's working on his own thing. But we actually started this game together.
Mm-hmm.
He's more of an artist, and he was only on the game for like a month or two. But we came together one day and we're brainstorming our next project. And I pitched the idea of a Chow Garden lake. Like no one's made one. Like let's do something like this. And then it was within the first like 10 minutes. I don't know who did it, but one of us just said the word Bobo, and it stuck from there. It just made sense. I don't know, and I'm glad I picked it because like I think it's a legitimately solid name for these guys, and people clearly love it. Like the community, I think I just lucked out that we picked a name so early on, and that was just the Bobo was picked. Bobo Bay didn't come until later, when I actually wanted to come up with a game title, but the Bobos themselves was that was like within 5-10 minutes.
You mentioned that Alex is like an artist. Did he like design also like the main character who has this like ghost hand and everything? How did that happen?
Yeah, so Alex, the biggest thing he provided for the game was the general like top half of a Bobo's head was
Hmm.
him. So like he was only on the game for a month and he concepted out this Bobo that was very different than the current one. You can see it on my Twitter and stuff, but it's basically just a head that has no legs or no arms, but it has this little hair puff and this floaty little hair tuft that comes out. And I just later on when he was off the game, I took that and turned it into the current default Bobo. But yeah, the character is all me. That came about because I had this idea from at some point when I was thinking about the world and the lore of like what I wanted to be, and I liked this idea of this like post-apocalyptic, but like it doesn't feel like an apocalypse at all. It's just implied that the world maybe ended at some point. So this character is a zombie and has a skeleton arm, and all the
Hmm.
characters are zombies. And yeah, I thought it was a good way to kind of just really make the character feel unique, and it plays into the world. And yeah, our overall design, I'm honestly surprised I made a design as uh, how it looks because that's not my usual thing that I do is design characters. But I took a while. It took like a month straight of just trying different things. But I think I ended up with a really good look, and making the other outfits she wears and stuff has been really fun too.
It's a very adorable vibe overall. Like it is this very colorful world, but it's also kind of I don't know why I thought, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of School Days, which is
School
an
day.
it's an anime where
Oh
these
yeah.
girls go to school and they're having just casual like school day fun, normal. But then slowly it is more and more revealed that it is actually a zombie apocalypse, and the characters are trying to prevent this one girl from finding out about it by pretending that everything is normal.
Interesting. I've heard of the anime, but I never watched it. I didn't actually know that's what it was about. But it is
Or
very
oh no, it's called School Life, something like that. School Life with a
school
bunch of
life.
exclamation marks. Yeah, School Days is a different one. That is oof. But
But
it's like School Life or something like that. It kind of like this. Something is amiss, but also it kind of makes sense. It's chill.
yeah, I mean the world in Bobo Bay is at peace. It's just kind of like there's plenty of things throughout the game, and some stuff I haven't announced yet that kind of play into what happened and a little bit. So that's not the point of the game. The point of the game is the main loop, but there's just
Yeah,
this overall thing in the background that I think holds everything together pretty well. Yeah.
that's exciting to you. Will the Bobos play a key role of sorts in whatever is going on in the world?
It's more so the main story of the game. There's going to be a little bit of story bits early on, but overall, I wanted to keep it a sandbox experience. Like that's what the game feels like to me. So I didn't want this big like story or linear thing.
Yeah,
So there's different like NPCs and stuff, and then the main character have like little bits and there's letters that come, and it's mainly just like world building stuff. And the Bobos themselves did play a part. It's not like they will play a part in the future. It's kind of like the biggest things that happened in this world has already happened, and you're just living in the result of that.
how do like the sagas that you got in the game work as a progression system?
Yeah, so if trials are this scheduled events, any Bobo can do them, and it's always randomized Bobos you do. So sagas is kind of the main objective of the game. Um, they're more, I think, similar to what is it was in Chow Garden maybe, but they're groups of challenges of competitions. So let's say it's 5 competitions, and one Bobo has to go through them. So to get to the second one, you have to beat the first one. So you beat them in order, but you can't do multiple Bobos. It's just one. Now, multiple Bobos can all do their own sagas, and you can have multiple Bobos do the same saga, but they have their own progression.
Hmm.
And the idea is that it's kind of like a lot of times a multi-life goal where they might do one of the competitions but not be good enough to get that second one. And you might have to wait and train for like 2 months in the game before you can actually do that one. But those aren't on a schedule, so you can do them any time, and they're the same Bobos every time. So it's kind of like this consistent objective-based thing, and that unlocks the biggest things in the game. So like town upgrades, the new species come from these sagas.
Yeah, like the new areas, different rewards, also shop items that are different based on how you've progressed with the sagas. I find it's interesting. Kind of reminds me, like the way you explained that with the sagas that each Boba has to tackle for themselves reminds me a bit of like Uma Musume, Pretty Derby, where you have like
Yes, yeah.
where each horse girl has like a different career path and goal. But yeah, it's like the
Yeah, I mean
same
like
goal for everyone, but still.
you I mean the people that play it now, like you can go through it where it's basically you just have one Bobo that does all of them and you just like pump that Bobo up and make that your one thing. Or you can have multiple and they all have their own specialties. And that's I just wanted to make the game where it can really any playstyle works. It's not really punishing. There's no like I don't think you can necessarily be like really good at the game. It's just everyone plays their own way. It's more of this fun thing. But yeah, they kind of have their own like storylines and these little arcs that they go on. That's kind of how I viewed it in my head of like this Bobo is specifically training for this saga, and I thought that was a really fun thing to add to the game that felt different than the trials, just to kind of give them two distinct things you can do every day.
Yeah, I find that kind of thing very, very interesting in games when you can like min max it or make it as complex as you want it to be, or just embrace it like at your own pace and be slow and inefficient. It's very, very fun, especially because there's no breeding in Boba Bay, but they do mash, right?
Yeah, so breeding, I just when I started making the game, I just found that word so weird to me to
Yeah,
call it that. And then I don't there's no other better word to use, but I use mashing in the game because it just feels a little bit better.
yeah.
But it's the same thing. You basically just mash two Bobos and then out comes this baby that has things from both parents. There's a full like genotype allele system in there. Same thing as Chow Garden that allows you to do that. But yeah, it's pretty much the same thing, just a different word for it.
I know, but like, I also find like breeding for these baby-like creatures a bit rough.
Yeah,
um,
just felt
but
odd.
but it's really cool that you can like just kind of train different Bobos to be very, very good at specific challenges or specific traits. Like in my plays of the demo and playtest, I would specialize this one Bobo to be like as fast as possible because I find it so funny when they go very, very fast. And lap other characters, or well, they don't lap because it's like one track, but it is really funny. And mashing them with like someone who's like super strong to create this like super Bobo that is it's got lightning fast punches sounds like a very funny idea.
Yeah, and the game. I have a playtester that's on Patreon that they like really prioritize just the customization aspect. They don't they compete still because it's part of the game, but their main thing is they just want to make cool looking Bobos. So like all the visual stuff because there's a
Mm-hmm.
ton. I mean, one of the main things I wanted to do from the get go was like I wanted more possibilities than Chow, like easily, and I've easily surpassed that by this point. It's only growing every time I add something new, but that you can play with just that focus and like you're kind of just focused on mashing them to make the coolest looking Bobo you can. And that's a whole other like play style that is you can just focus on that if you want. That's kind of fun is just to see what other people want to prioritize and how they play. Is something that's not in the playtest or the new demo that launched last week or 2 weeks ago. Um, that's not in there yet, but it'll be in the final game. Is there's another garden, so you can unlock this secret garden that is through the forest, and there'll be other gardens too. Just like other areas, we can place your bows in and collect them. And a lot of people like treat them as this main bay garden is from all my competitors, and then the secret garden is where I'm gonna play around with customization. So it's like they separate them based on the play style that they want to do that day. And I thought that was really interesting to see.
I see. So this one garden is for the ugly Bobos that are strong, and this
Yeah.
secret one is for all the pretty ones.
Yeah, or people do the opposite. They make the secret one as like that's there are two Bobos that are amazing at competitions. They live there, and the rest of them are in the Bay Garden.
Segregation, eh?
Yeah, kind of.
But no, it's really really fun. How many different kinds of Bobos are there like currently in the game, and how many are planned for the future?
So yeah, I mean, the base species is called the plant species, and there's 5 forms. The forms basically is the default one, and there are 4 other ones. They evolve into that form when they turn from a baby into an adult, based on like the snacks they ate recently. So that's 5 forms for the plant. So that we have Phantom and Fairy that are in the game. Only the Phantoms are in the demo. But we have Fairy too, which is kind of the equivalent of like the Hero, Chow. But those each have 5 forms. And then 2 more species I have not announced yet. I just actually made the 4th one this past couple weeks, but I have not shared anything. I won't. I'm going to keep that one a secret until release. But yeah, all the species have their own forms, but they also have their own colors and patterns, their own eyes. They all come with, and then all that stuff can be mashed. So let's say you get a phantom that has the red color, which does not belong to the plant species. If you mash a plant and a phantom Bobo, you can get a plant Bobo that's red, for example. So all that stuff can be kind of passed along.
It is like a lot of different. I think I read somewhere that your intent is to allow thousands of combinations with all of these things. And as you mentioned, there are people who specifically breed for the aesthetic, well, mash for the aesthetic. But how do you ensure that the customization options that feel meaningful and not incredibly overwhelming for like all the different kinds of players?
I think it's just the nature of, and this is an easy thing for me because it's just the nature of what Chow Garden was. There's no like menu you go into and like select the color or select the eyes. Because yeah, all these things. Because I have my own like in my game engine, I have this own scene that I can make exactly the Bobo I want for a video or a GIF on Twitter or something. But people don't get that in game. In game, it's just you find one in the forest, and then based on that Bobo, then you can mash that with other ones. And because it's limited, there's no menus. It's just naturally occurring, and based on your choices of who you mash with who, that I don't think it feels overwhelming at all because you kind of you customize based on what you have kind of around you. And that's definitely what I found watching like streamers play is just they will get really into and like want a specific kind of Bobo because of what they have now. And that makes it a lot less overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I feel like that's a good approach overall.
And
And
then yeah, I mean besides the visuals, there's a whole trait system too, which is a whole other thing.
yeah, how many like traits are there? Like, are traits purely cosmetic, or do you also have like some that have like bonuses and whatnot in the game?
So yeah, traits are not cosmetic at all. They're just well,
Oh, like
I guess they kind of are. But there's a couple different types of traits. So like the main trait. So if you open up like your Bobo and then the UI has this little icon in the bottom left of like what they are. So like an example is Kangaroo Kid, um, and Kangaroo Kid Bobo has a buff in um, jumping and strength, and then they also like instead of running, they like hop like a kangaroo. So that's like an aesthetic thing that changes.
mm,
There's a ton of main traits. There's humble traits which are hidden. They're all negative, and then there's item traits which are stuff like the skateboard. You can give them a skateboard and they ride a skateboard instead of running.
are all of the current Are you very, very happy with the current trade system, or are there things that you would like to change about that in future releases?
Yeah, I think I'm really happy with how it's turned out. The goal right now, I'm almost there, not too far off, but the goal is to have 30 humble traits, 30 main traits, and 30 item traits
Hmm.
by release. I'm not too far off. I think I finished the humble traits, and then still have like 10 more item traits to make, and then like four more main traits. And then after release, I'm sure I'll add it. I have plenty of ideas that I made a list for myself of like, I think 30, 30, 30 is a lot. And I think most people, when they play, probably won't even see all of them. So I think that is a good amount to kind of launch with.
Is there like a trait that is your favorite of sorts, or a combination?
Um, Favorite trait. It is tough. I always feel like the new ones I add are just I always really like. I mean, I think rough and tumble is probably my favorite item trait. You give them a steel chair and they drop kick other Bobos in the race. Um, and they can use that steel chair in Brawl too, which is funny. Um, as far as main traits, I really like. I'm looking at my list because I'm just trying to think what's fun. Uh, I like Unbreakable Will. It's kind of a I don't know what you want to call it. Abstract one, but they get a bunch of like weird little buffs. Like in when they lose stamina in a race, like a Bobo, they their like skills get halved. But then Unbreakable Will Bobo, that percentage is less. So like if they lose full stamina, they can actually still keep going at a high like success. And then like when you hype them during a race, which is like clapping for them, it lasts longer for that Unbreakable Will one. They have confident mood more often. They take less damage in Brawl the lower health they are. So there's like a bunch of like I like how weird that one is, and it's like very specific. And I think some people that maybe have played the game for a while will gravitate towards that one because I think it's pretty strong. Um, so I like that one a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned earlier how you wanted to make like the fighting minigame kind of anime with like the freeze frame, with like the invincibility frames and all of that. Uh, Unbreakable Will is very much a oh, you're clutching, like you're clenching your teeth and hanging in there, bearing through the pain to survive longer. This is not the end, Fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It very much gives that power fantasy. It has a lot of like cool traits. I'd imagine that people will find some combinations that look very adorable or very, very strong together, or possibly even game breaking. If you find out that something is incredibly unbalanced but also hard to achieve, is it your like do you approach these kinds of situations with a desire to fix them or balance them or turn them down a little bit, or do you just leave them be because as a reward, for a single player game?
Yeah, so for the most part, I think I should just leave stuff because it's single player, so it's not like you're competing people online. There's no like cheating.
Yeah.
So I like the idea. My philosophy, I guess, in terms of like traits for the game is if everything is like overpowered, then nothing is. So that's kind of how I treat them. Is just all of them are crazy overpowered, and that's the fun of it, I think. However, I do tweak things. Like if something feels way too much, I'll turn it down. Like I still want to keep them in balance with each other, but they're
Yeah.
all overpowered themselves. So like one person discovered, for example, I guess, is a trait called the Haggler, and this is not in competitions at all. This is just a Bobo that if you take it to the town with you, they get you a discount on anything you buy.
But that
So,
sounds great.
like if you something was 20 Kato, which is the currency, you can get it for 16 instead. And this is intentional too, but I was waiting for someone to find it. But one of the testers found out that if you have five hagglers with you, then you can basically buy something super cheap and then sell it back at your garden for a profit. And I think that's hilarious. So like that's in the game. Like so they bring five hagglers around them with them every single time they go to the town. And that's fun. Like not everyone will do that, but I think if someone discovers that, that's a really fun like exploit that I don't think harms anyone since it's a single player. So
Yeah, I definitely think that it's. I mean, it would be a different thing if it ruined the fun, or if it was not fun to do, but very, very efficient, then people will tend to gravitate to that kind of playstyle and optimize the fun out of the game. But in this case, you would need to have 5 Bobos that have specifically that trait and then bring them into town with you to then do something when you could also literally just play the game normally and make enough money to buy the things you want to buy.
Exactly.
So,
So like a lot of this stuff that people find is, yeah, that was by chance. Hagglers are a rare trait, so you're not guaranteed to come across it. And then that require finding five of them, or mashing together several times to make sure you get that one, which isn't a guarantee either. So yeah, it's
mhm.
like most people find that I'm not going to strive for that specific thing. There's other stuff you can do to also get money really easily. There's other different traits that there's a trait that finds treasures in the garden, and then you can sell those treasures. So like it just depends on kind of what there's a bit of RNG to it when you start a new save. Like what are you given early on, and that you kind of that dictates a little bit of maybe your play style.
Speaking of people in the community, there have been people online, I believe on Reddit and the Steam forums. I think I've seen it. I'm not sure exactly where I saw the discussions, but essentially asking about multiplayer and the like. Is that something that is planned for some distant future, or is that not at all like your intent with the game?
Yeah, I always in the past I was planning on doing multiplayer for release, and multiplayer would be uh, basically you can take a Bobo that you have and then race your friend's Bobo online, and then possibly like put an item up for trade or something, so they can whoever wins gets the item that you put up or something. Um, I have since I think a couple months ago I decided this. I just decided to say I still want to do that. I think that'd be fun, but I don't think it's a game seller, I guess you could call. I think there's other stuff that if I want to spend however many months that takes to add to the game before release, I'd rather add this other big thing. So I've been making this new feature I have not announced yet to people outside Patreon, but it's a pretty big part of the game, and I felt it was smarter to add that. I think it would add more value to the game than multiplayer, and then I'll just add that after release if people still want it. But yeah, it'll be something like that where you can kind of put your bubbles up and fight them or race them against each other.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of developers who tend to think that way, where they focus on what is actually important or assign priorities to certain features. And there's other people who just add everything, including like achievements, trading cards, and whatnot, when the game isn't even finished yet. So it's definitely commendable that you try to focus on what's in front of you instead of what is in the distant future, but also don't completely disregard what people ask
Yeah,
for.
because I know a lot of people want it. I know people have asked for like a co-op mode. That's never happening because it's just you have to build a game from the ground up with
Yeah,
that in mind, and I did not. But multiplayer, I think it's one of those things of in the grand scheme of things, I don't think a ton of players will actually use it.
yeah.
But that's why I think it's a great feature for after release for those people that are sticking around and still playing it. And as after release, so I have a lot more time and I can focus on these other fun stuff. That's like a perfect thing to add a couple months down the line.
Would something like Bobo sharing or like trading be a thing?
Yeah, I people have asked for that. It'll probably, if I can figure out how to do it, because I don't know yet, um, it'll be part of that. Probably like the same update. It would be like a thing I can do.
I'd imagine. And yeah, how has player feedback been overall for you in the game?
Good. I mean, I think it's tough. It's my first game of this size. So I've been making games for a while, but a lot of the stuff I've made are for other companies as part of a team or smaller things that I've released for free. But this is the first one I've taken to this. I'm gonna sell it and do a full release and everything. So it's hard to know like if the feedback I'm getting and the reviews I'm getting are good or bad, like compared to other ones. But for the most part, it's been very, very positive. Seems like people really love it. Like, the biggest complaint that I get is, well, one, this is something that I have to just get better at, and it'll hopefully be good for release, is just teaching the mechanics. I think there's a lot going on in the game. I
Mm.
have to just get better at teaching stuff. Another big one is that people want something else to do as part of like their daily loop. So right now, there's obviously you compete with them, you care for the Bobos, and there's gambling too. So you can go at nighttime and gamble on Bobos to stuff like that. But people, I think, especially people that played Chow Garden and played Sonic Adventure 2, are expecting or want something equivalent to the platforming levels, like this other part of the game. And that I always said I'm not going to do that. This is the main part of the game. This is 90% of it. But I have, this is the big feature I was talking about. I have not shared anything about it, but there will be a bigger part to the game that I think adds a lot to the daily loop that makes it feel, I guess, what made it less tedious, I guess if you could say. For some people, that might feel like doing that loop of training, competing, feeding, going to sleep isn't for them. This other thing I think adds a lot to the formula that I think will fix any of those like, and that's not everybody, it's just a couple people have brought that up. I think will satisfy those types of players that want that other thing to do, like kind of like in Stardew Valley you have like mining, that's an additional thing. This would be like that.
Yeah, it's for most games. I haven't played Sonic Adventure 2. Truth be told, I didn't know that Sonic Adventure 2 existed until 2 years ago. But I love Sonic Adventure 1. And
Yeah.
I believe that most of the time when developers add something like Chow Garden to the game, or fishing or whatever, it's because it can be kind of boring and repetitive to do the same sort of levels over and over again. Like, for instance, in Sonic, when you do the racing or the platforming, or in other games when you do like combat, it makes sense that you would then add something that kind of cleanses your palate. Just like when you drink a lot of different beers and you drink a glass of water here and there to just wipe the taste from the previous one off your tongue so that you can enjoy the rest yourself some more. And so certain games do work quite well when they have the kind of like Stardew Valley where you can do fishing and mining and adventuring kind of, or gardening or interacting with people. It kind of works that you have lots of different ways of interacting with the game. But other games like Palia, for instance, that only consist of all the mini games, don't quite work that well, for me at least. So it makes sense that you would add like something like that to it, but also I think it's a core challenge of designing a game like Bobo Game. Wait, Bobo Game, Bobo. God damn it, Bobo Bay. There you go, which is very sandboxy. God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually an idea I had pretty early on that I didn't do because I'm like, I want to focus on the core of it, which is this pet raising sim. But
Mhm.
now it's, it got to that point recently where I was like very confident with the loop, and testers that have played the game a lot and that started new saves have said like, oh, the new save experience is really good. That I just felt like, okay, now is the time to add something else that just feels very unique and different. I'm very excited to show it off. But yeah, I think it will definitely cleanse the palate. I think it just provides a totally different feel. That, yeah, I don't think everyone needs it. I think some people could 100% just play the game how it is. But I love the addition. I think I would personally, if I was playing a game like this, would want something like it. So
That makes totally sense. What have been some of your highlights or invaluable lessons from running the demo and play tests and engaging with player feedback?
oh, that's a good question.
Thank you. I'm proud of that one.
I mean, it's hard to answer because like so everything has been new because like I said, I haven't done this before, this
Yeah.
full release. So every experience, like putting the game online and then like running my Discord and everything has been new. Um, I think the thing that I've found that makes it the most fun, at least for me, is just I just communicate a lot. I'm sure other people do more. I'm sure other people do way less. I think most people probably do less, but I just love talking with people on the Discord and responding to people on Twitter. And anybody that has an idea, I just tell them to share it. There's no guarantee I add it, but like I have a suggestions page on my Discord of like you can just send anything, any idea you have, you can put there. And I guess a lesson, I don't know if it'd be a lesson. I think I might know what lessons I learn when I start my next game.
Fair.
Because right now I'm in the middle of it. But I think right now I'm just trying to enjoy it and not get too burnt out. And luckily I haven't really gotten burnout. It's been fun enough to continue. Um, I think the thing I have to teach myself or tell myself all the time is that, and I'm learning this every day, is just I can't compare myself or my game to others. That's kind of the biggest thing. Is
Mhm.
there's other Chow Garden like games that are coming out, and some of them have more wish lists than me, and that sometimes sucks to think about. But I have to. It's not going to do me any good to just be upset about it. So I just try to focus on my game and making it the best it can be, and hope that has a good release.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense totally. There's a lot that you'll probably have gained from this experience that you'll notice in the next project way more than right now. Can you share maybe like one very memorable community story that you have experienced from interacting with your community on Discord and Twitter and stuff?
Um, I mean the things that always come to my mind are people making fan art. That is, it still blows my mind. Like, I guess that was the first time I ever felt like I was making a real game. Is people making fan art of it. So anytime someone makes fan art, it's always like it makes my day. It's hard not to think of that as like my favorite fan experience is just when anybody makes fan art. Um, I think my favorite thing that's happened that's not that though is I got invited onto a streamer, Vixen. She does Twitch streams and uh, she has a pretty good following. And I like to go in the Twitch chats. I shouldn't do it since it takes so much time out of my day, but I love watching them and responding to them and like stuff like that. And I was in their stream and I was in multiple of them and they invited me on a call. So I got to do like a full like Twitch stream with the streamer kind of just when they were playing my game. And that was I think that's a pretty memorable thing for me to look back on. It's just like I said, things that make it feel like real. Like I'm legitimately making something that people is fan art and people playing it online are like the two biggest things that make it feel real.
It makes a lot of sense. Personally, as someone who streams, anytime developers have been in chat or were able to answer like questions that I had about the design and stuff, while they're just doing their thing and just working on the game as I'm playing the game and then talking about stuff or realizing, oh, I found a bug that they didn't see ever and stuff like that. Those kind of times were my highlights as well as a streamer, personally. So yeah, it's really cool that you joined someone on their stream, very impromptu.
Yeah,
um,
I mean, I've always been like anyone else. I've always, as a kid, or growing up with YouTube, I was like, I want to be a content creator, and it's not for me, but to kind of be able to jump in like that, I think is fun to do every once in a while.
so with a game, with a game's release being planned to be around Q2 of 2026, what kind of major milestones or polish cycles are you still like targeting? Like things that still need to, do you have like a concrete vision of what definitely needs to be in there besides like those item traits and the new species and the secret feature? Are there like more ideas that you still have planned for or things that you plan for post launch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only like a half a year out at this point, which is insane. Who knows? Hopefully, I finish it by then. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I have everything listed. I'm sure I've there's stuff that I'm missing, but I think because I get to I put a new build online every month. It lets me test and bug fix constantly, so I'm not going to be saving a ton of this stuff from the end for the end. But yeah, I mean, I have a Notion board, all my tasks, and I have pretty much everything that listed out that I need to get done before release. It should be doable. I've been able to stick to the schedule so far. But yeah, it's going to be a crazy last couple months. But uh, yeah, I have everything listed: traits, new species, um, stuff with a new feature. like dumb stuff like Steam achievements I have to add in eventually, stuff like that. Like I have everything listed, and just gonna be about executing it. But I feel pretty confident. I think I've been able to stick to a schedule for the past year or two, so can't see why I can't do that now.
Mhm. And looking back, we've looked in the future now. Looking back, what would you say is like the moment during the development so far that you've been most proud of?
Um, there's definitely a couple. Like I think anytime I design a new Bobo species, I'm always proud of. I get better at it every time. It's like I've just been doing this fourth species um this past couple weeks, and I'm really happy with the way they look. And I'm not I've never really saw myself as like a designer or good at character design and stuff like 2D art. So whenever I'm able to do something related to character design or 2D art that I think is good, then I always feel pretty proud. Like I'm really happy with the way the UI looks in the game. Like I'm not UI UX, but like I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. I think it's really unique and fun. And yeah, character design, like designing Parfait, the main character for the first time, is not something I thought I could do that well. So those are all the big ones. Is anything I was able to do something like art and design related is always stands out to me.
What kind of advice would you give to aspiring solo or indie developers who also want to create cozy simulations like Bobo Bay or other kind of things like sandboxy experiences?
Um, what would be a good main thing? I mean, I think I've always followed like for this game, I have this like little three rule thing in my head that I try to follow when picking a game to make, and it's one, is it a game that I would want to play myself? Like if I saw it on Steam,
Mm-hmm.
would I want to play it? Um, Two, would I want to make it? That's different. There's plenty of games that I love to play and I would never want to make one. Like for whatever reason, like it's not systems that I don't like or the art style is not something I could do, whatever. And the third is, does it feel unique? Does it feel like it'll truly give players something they haven't done before, experienced before, or in this case, like with Bobo Bay, something they haven't experienced in a really long time, like 20 years. So like that's my big thing I try to think of is like pick an idea that kind of hits those three, then you'll have a good time. I've had a pretty free for the most part, like development because of those three things. I'm not making a game that I'm dreading or I'm actually love it. Like I'd play this game if it came out. and I feel like the unique part of it, I know, at least I think I know that people want this kind of thing and it'll stand out if they would see it somewhere. And those keep me going. Those keep me not burnout. I think that's just the biggest thing is like burnout happens a lot, and I think having a game that you love is first step, and then two is if you're especially if you're a solo dev, is just never be afraid to switch up what you're working on that day. There are plenty of times when I've been working on the town art and I hate it. Like after 2 weeks, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So I don't. I just move on. I do something else, and I'll go back to it in the future. If you stick too much in doing something you don't like or not having fun with, then you'll 100% burn out and just stop doing it altogether. So I always just say, especially for a solo dev, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. So I would do that. Work on the stuff that you want to work on, and you'll finish and you'll do the other stuff later.
I think that's very reasonable. I feel like lots of people either overscope or make something that they wouldn't even play themselves, and then they have to play test it themselves and stuff, and that creates issues. By the way, completely unrelated to the interview, but what's your profile picture? I just keep staring at it. I'm like, what
It's
is that?
it's a Bobo, but just very blurry. Every like 2 months, I make it blurrier.
Ah, I see. Yeah, it was like it kind of looks Bobo shaped vaguely.
That's exactly as intended.
Okay, that's fantastic. Sorry. Right at the end, people will look at it and be like, what am I looking at? um, Last but not least, is there anything that you would tell people? Where can they support the game and how? And what can they do for you?
Yeah, the best thing you can do if you do it right now is just go Bobo Bay on Steam and wishlist. Wishlists are like key. It's indie games nowadays, or any game really nowadays. And after that, if you want to continue, obviously send the game to your friends. You can follow me on Twitter, is place I play post the most. Join the Discord. There's a really good community there. And then if you really want to do the most is support on Patreon. You get access to devlogs each week, and then new builds every month, polls and suggestion stuff. Yeah, a lot of stuff on there. So that's like the most. But bare minimum, just wishlist on Steam. That's the best thing.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.